Sorry for the delay, everyone. Thank you for coming out. We appreciate you showing up tonight to welcome Wendy back to our area, and I'll let Wendy introduce herself.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I walk around a lot. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I know it's the July 1st weekend, and it's raining, and we weren't expecting a whole lot of people, so I'm glad that you all came out. It's good for me to be back home and speak to people in the area that I grew up in for the first 30-something years of my life. And then I moved away after a divorce. I moved away and decided to get my GED and go to university, and voila, here I am today. So what I do is I'm a psychologist and a health life coach and an author and a speaker. And I just absolutely love what I do. But more importantly, what I love to do is I love to inspire others to be all that they can be. Because most often in life we get so beat down with challenges that oftentimes we lose sight of why we're here on earth and what we're here to contribute to our community, to the world, and to ourselves. And so I like to pull people back to their true source or their true essence. And so not as to insult anyone's spirituality or religion. I use the word source. It means whatever it means for you. It might mean, I speak all over, so there's so many different religions that I use that to cover everyone, whatever it means for you. For some people it's nature, for others it's God, for others it's Buddha, for whatever it means for you. I honor whatever it means for you. So tonight, what I'm going to be talking about are two things. The first thing I will be talking about is how to stay peaceful when you've got a lot of chaos and negativity all around you. And we do have it all around us. How do we stay peaceful inside? And secondly, I'll be talking about if you have a life's a heartfelt wish or heartfelt desire that's been on your heart for a long while, you can't make a decision about it. It might be deciding to change careers. It might be deciding to have a baby. It might be just whatever it is for you. It's what I want to talk about is how to help you make a decision and how to help you get unstuck. And because of all that's happened in the community with all of the losses over the last year or so, I want to also talk about how to get unstuck as much as you can and move through the grief process, as difficult as that can be. So I'm going to start with how to stay peaceful no matter what is going on around you. And the very first thing I'm going to do is take my shoes off. That will make me feel a lot more peaceful. So what is the opposite of peace? The opposite of peace is fear and a general sense of anxiety. And when we allow our thoughts to create that fear, general sense of anxiety, we lose our inner peace. We also lose our connection with Source. It's impossible almost, or for me it is anyway, to have a sense of strong feeling grounded and having a strong sense of Source, connection to Source, and having a lot of anxiety and fear-based thoughts. And what happens is we grow up with fear. It's all around us. We grow up, it's in our families, it's in our communities, and it's just it's a human part of us to have lots of fear. Unfortunately, when we have it all the time, the fear continues even when it doesn't need to continue. And so what we do is we develop thought patterns. They're neural thought patterns in our brain that actually keep repeating themselves over and over and over, and these thought patterns keep us miserable. They have the capability of keeping us miserable and cheating us out of our peace, our sense of inner peace. I want to remind you, too, that you are meant to be in a state of peace. You are meant to enjoy your life as much as possible. And so I guess realizing that and realizing that it's your birthright to enjoy peace might encourage you to take the steps you need to take to change your thought patterns. Our thought patterns, the way that I look at it, is you know how you have snow tracks and the cars in the snow tracks, and once you get the car in the snow tracks, you can't get it out of the snow tracks. It just keeps staying right in the snow tracks that are down. It's sort of like that. Our thoughts travel through parts of our brain, mostly the prefrontal cortex, and they keep rotating because the tracks are there. And just like our car would stay in the snow tracks, our similar thoughts keep rotating and destroy our peace, and because typically our thoughts are negative because we are security-based and we've heard a lot of thoughts now that are negative. Now the thing is, we have like 60,000 thoughts a day, but we only remember maybe 2% of those. We are unconsciously programmed. We're not aware of most of our thoughts. You can tell what your thoughts are by how your life is. Like, for instance, if I think I am not worthy, and I have those constant thoughts, which, by the way, was a core thought of mine for many, many years, and I still struggle with it. I am not worthy. You will find yourself doing, saying, and hanging around people that will perpetuate that notion and will prove to you that you are not worthy. And so then you can say, oh, see, that's true. See, I was right. I'm not worthy. That's why he left me. Or that's why I didn't get that job. Or that's why, whatever it is. And so at first, just knowing that you have a lot of unconscious thoughts, not to be afraid of that, but if you want to know what your unconscious thoughts are, we take a look at our life. For instance, if I'm struggling with money, which was another big one for me, struggling with money. And again, it was attached to feeling unworthy. Struggling with money, if I'm constantly struggling with money, I know that I have unconscious thoughts that are enabling that struggle. So I know that that's something that I need to work on using affirmations and positive thoughts about money. I know that that's an area of concern for me. And I know that that is something that will destroy my peace if I'm constantly struggling with money. So I want you to think about what peace feels like for you. I take a deep breath because our peace is directly related to our breath. Our breath is the very first thing that we do when we're born, and the very last thing that we do when we die. Your breath is your connection, is a way to connect with Source, with something greater than yourself that helps you through life. And so oftentimes we're anxious, we breathe only down to here. Very shallow breathing. And not only do we not oxygenate all of our body, but it keeps us in a semi-panic state, in a state where we cannot access positive thoughts. And so learning to breathe down in your belly is huge. It prevents panic attacks, prevents anxiety, it prevents negative thinking, and it allows you to have more peace no matter what's going on out here. Doesn't matter if the teenagers are acting up, driving the cars without their license, and you never not coming home on time, and coming home drunk, and been there, done that. didn't know how to stay in the peace when I went through that, so I know what it's like not to be in the peace when you go through that. So how do you stay in a centered place of peace? And I want you to be thinking about what peace feels like for you. It's not the same as joy, but it's close. It's like when you're peaceful, it feels like you are connected to God. It just feels like everything's okay. It feels the way you were meant to feel. And the more that you can experience that in your life, no matter what is going on in your life, the better your health will be. And that's what I'll be talking about in Shelburne, at the community center in Shelburne on July the 3rd, how learning to control chronic illness and pain by using your thoughts and maintaining a sense of inner peace. You will notice people that have a sense of inner peace do not have a lot of chronic illness and a lot of chronic pain. And many years ago, I had a major back injury, and I still actually had flare-ups. And the only way that I could really heal my back was to learn to stay as much as possible in a state of inner peace. I used exercise helped me, music helped me, having animals around helped me, having pets, having a connection, just that kind of relaxing to have a pet, a dog or a cat or whatever. That is what was crucial in healing. So again, I want to pull you back to I want you to think of a time when you felt peaceful. It might have been a time when you were a child. It might have been a time when you were in love, when you were first in love. Remember that feeling when you're first... Gary, turn around. Gary's my brother-in-law, so I can say that to him. So he was turning around making eyes at my sister, so back there. So remember when you were first in love, that feeling. That's sort of what the peace feels like. It's researchers that have researched peace and done MRIs on the brain have shown what parts of the brain light up when someone is in peace or if someone is in love. And certain parts of the brain will actually light up, and more neurotransmitters will be sent through the body, mainly serotonin and dopamine, which are the two major neurotransmitters that make you feel peaceful. And so the first step is to remember what it feels like. Because and everybody has had a moment, at least a moment of peacefulness. So you get up in the morning and you expect to have a peaceful day, and then the car breaks down and you don't get to work on time, and then the stress starts to accumulate. The way that you keep yourself centered in that peaceful bubble, if you will, is to continue to think of the next best positive thought that holds you in that stance or that frequency of peace. I've started to say before, researchers have actually measured emotions of peace, and they do it on a frequency, like frequency of a radio or a vibrational frequency. And peace and love are really at the top, and joy, peace and love and joy are at the top. The highest frequency available for you to access emotionally in your emotional state. And when your emotional state is functioning from the highest possible frequency or vibration, not only are you closer to God, you will attract positive things in your life, and you will be able to cope very harmoniously with what happens around you. You will very easily, if something happens, Okay, let's give you an example. Okay, so it's Saturday night. You have a 17-year-old teenage son, and he doesn't come home. And most of us know at some point what that feels like, and he doesn't text you or call you to let you know where he is. And so automatically, the negative thoughts start. It will be either anger or fear. Fear that something's happened to them, anger that they didn't have the respect to let you know where they were. And so you have these horrible negative thoughts. So how do you stay in peace in that situation? You think the next best positive thought. The next best positive thought is, I know he's all right. I am going to pray for him. I'm going to visualize in my mind him being okay. I know he's just gotten out with his friends and he's forgotten to call me. You keep thinking, you force yourself manually. It's like priming a pump. At first you force yourself manually to think the positive thoughts because you're basically, again, trying to get new tire tracks in the snow. In the cerebral cortex, you're trying to build new neural pathways that allow you to have a better, more peaceful life. You're trying to get the tires out of the tracks, the old way of traveling, and think the new way. And what is available to us once we master this, or even master it 2%, because it's like an airplane. If an airplane changes direction 2%, it ends up in a totally different... You don't have to change all of your negative thoughts. 2% will make a phenomenal difference in how you feel, your quality of life, and it will help you stay in a peaceful state. And when we're in a peaceful state, we remember who we really are. And that is key. I want you to remember that. When you're in a peaceful state, you remember who you really are. Little children know who they really are until they find, they've done lots of studies on this, and they find that once children get in school and have to be socialized, and I know that's necessary, but I hated school. I absolutely, Marsha, remember how much I hated school? Do you remember? It was horrible. There isn't even words. Anyway, a child goes to school and they get socialized, and they do forget who they really are. A little child can basically be peaceful no matter what's going on around them, and we can too if we practice. One of the things that will help you too, when you're peaceful, you model it for the people in your family. There is no greater gift that you can do once you master this. It's like a career. Kids do what we do. They don't do what we say, they do what we do. And so you model this sense of peacefulness. And the way that I keep grounding myself is I have a motto, and it's everything's going to be okay. And when I start to feel myself unpeaceful and chaotic and anxious, everything's going to be okay. And I had to learn the hard way that everything is okay, because I learned that my life isn't really my life. There's a lot of circumstances that go on around us, and there's a lot of influences on our life that we have no control over. And so everything's going to be okay. Sometimes, like I have a candle at my home, and it's a metal candle, and it has peace written on it. Just the words peace will instigate that feeling for you too of being peaceful. And so I want you to think of a situation that has taken you out of your peace. And you say to me, how do you expect me to feel at peace when this is going on? What are you talking about? And how do I answer this? I don't know how I'm supposed to answer this. So what I'm going to do is model for you. I'm going to go to my peaceful place and see if I can come up for an answer with you. The way that you do it is you tell yourself, I am going to be at peace no matter what. I am going to be at peace even if I have lost my job, even if I can't pay the rent or the mortgage, even if all of my children have moved out west and I miss them dearly, even if the car is broken down, even if I think my husband's having an affair but I can't prove it, even if my teenager is very disrespectful and drives me crazy, I don't know how much longer I can stand it, even if I'm worried about my health, I am making a commitment to my own soul that I am going to be at peace, because in that way I am honoring Source. I am honoring God, because that's the way He would want you to be. When we are in peace, we honor God, because we're saying, God, I trust you. I know that you have a bigger reason that I can't see yet. You know that country and western song, Thank God for Unanswered Prayers? You know, I think of some of the things in my life and I'm saying, oh my, thank God that didn't work out. Thank God I didn't get that job. And then sometimes I've resisted and I've really fought tooth and nail, and I did get that job. Was only in it 6 months and realized why I wasn't supposed to be in it. When you're trying to make decisions about maintaining peace, you will get messages from other people. You'll get messages in your dreams. You'll get messages on how to stay peaceful and how to make the next peaceful decision. Now, let's suppose that how do we get peaceful if someone close to us has died? And I know that that's what a lot of people are thinking, because I'm very intuitive and I can sense that. And there is no easy answer to that, and there is no easy journey for that. But there is a journey. And I can tell you this, that the journey that you take throughout the healing process evolves your own soul. The journey that you take as you keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you, even though you're in incredible, debilitating mental and physical pain, allows your soul to evolve to a higher level. And I've seen this over and over and over again. One thing that's very, very important is that there's lots of support. And that's so good about this community. I said to my sister, you know, where I live, you don't have support like this community has here. This is very unique to have such a supportive community. So having the support is essential for you to be able to live with the grief. And over time, what happens is you come to an understanding as to why it happened. You come to an understanding as to why. Because that's mostly the question that we ask, why? Why? And when we stay in the why mode, that's okay, but it keeps us a little bit stuck. And if we can get to the point where we can even ask, just say the words, please show me why. You will get your why. Trust me, you will get your why. I've gone through this process many times, and I understand the why. And remember too, the body and the mind goes through a similar process, whether it's the loss of someone that we love, whether it's the loss of a pet, whether it's the loss of a job, the loss of a spouse, the loss of an income, loss of our sense of security, whatever it is. And so, or as we go through life, we get used to eventually and gradually dealing with loss of some sort. But if you know how to stay in your peace the whole time, if you know how to stay in your peace, you stay grounded for yourself and your own emotional state, your own physical well-being, but you're also modeling it. And I'm not saying stay stoic and be strong and never cry. That's not what I'm saying at all. Because you can actually be peaceful and cry at the same time. Because sometimes if I feel a strong sense of peace, I will cry. So I know that you can feel at peace and cry at the same time. So I want you to get in touch with your breath. Just take a deep breath. And you stick your belly out and pretend you're pregnant. That's why I wore a loose dress. 3 deep breaths. This is so simple, and yet it's so overlooked. Your breath. If you get nothing else out of tonight, it's your breath. Okay. I use music in most of my talks and seminars and presentations because music, I was talking about vibrations before, and I try to pick music that is vibrationally high because it keeps your personal vibrations high, and it helps us to take in more information. So that's why I do that. It also gives me an opportunity to reflect upon what I've said and to use my intuition to feel where I need to go next. And that means that oftentimes during a talk, I may start out on one topic and it may end up on another topic. I try to stay as close to my theme as possible, but oftentimes I do listen to my inner guidance, and I do go from one direction to the next, so bear with me on that. One of the things that destroys our peace is listening to the news or anything violent before we go to bed. Listening to violent music will destroy your peace, if nothing more than from the vibrational frequency from that music, not to mention the words, if the words are negative. But especially if you watch the news, which most people do just before they go to sleep, and remembering that while we're sleeping, we rotate, we're unconsciously processing what just happened before we went to sleep. And when we wake up in the morning, we turn on the TV and listen to the news. Now, unfortunately, the news is biased because there's so much good out there. So one of the things that you can do, I'm going to give you some very clear-cut, tangible tips on how to remain in your peace. And that's one of them. Do not watch the news in the morning and at night if you plan on staying in a peaceful state. It will affect you whether you're aware of it or not. Another thing is to drink lots of water. Why do I say drink lots of water? Because when we don't drink lots of water, we gather inflammation from the toxins in our body, and all of our foods have toxins in them, the air has toxins in them. And when we have inflammation in our body, it causes the cortisol to be released inappropriately, and when cortisol is released inappropriately through our body, it creates a state of anxiety. You will know when you have too much cortisol in your body, and I'll be talking about this on the 3rd. If you have problems sleeping, if you suffer with depression, anxiety, if you have backaches, headaches, or if you have belly fat around your midriff, because the cortisol settles there, and no matter how much exercise you do or how much you diet, you still have that inappropriate amount of belly fat in that area. That means too much cortisol, that means too much anxiety in your body. Sometimes we get so used to living with so much anxiety, it becomes normal, and we don't even realize that there's anything else. But I want to read you something out of a book that I wrote in 2004, and it's called Wild Women Never Get the Blues. And it's not about women dancing on the tabletop. Sorry, guys, but it's about getting in touch with who you really are at your true core, and honoring that and following your life's mission, listening to what's happened to you in your life as guideposts as to what your life's mission is. And so anger is what keeps us from our peace. And one of the best ways to get rid of anger is to write an anger letter. And you don't have to give it to the person that you're angry at, but you can write an anger letter, but it has to be done in a certain way. You can't just blurt out all these horrible things about someone in a letter and expect to have it processed and to be in a state of peace. Because as a matter of fact, that just revs you up even more in the anger. So I devised a way for people to write an anger letter. I'm not sure if you have pens or not. You might want to write this down. I'm going to read an anger letter to you. This is a letter written to Scott from Angela, and Scott did not come home the night before. I think her name is Angela. Yeah, it is. So the first emotion that needs to be dealt with is the anger, and most people that write a letter stay right in this anger state. And so she writes, "Dear Scott," and this is the anger, "I think you're such a jerk. You're a self-centered, egotistical, insensitive man. I don't know how anyone could be like you and exist. You hurt me over and over and over again, but you don't seem to care. You think the world revolves around you. When you promised me that you wouldn't stay out late with your buddies again, I actually believed you until you didn't show up at all last night." Okay, under every emotion there's another emotion. So under anger is hurt. So then she goes into the hurt. So we're going through the different emotions so she can get to the core of it and let go of the anger. So in the hurt it says, "I'm so hurt that you would do this to me. I was up all night wondering where you were. I was wondering if you were with someone else." Then she goes into the fear, which is the third emotion. We've got anger, hurt, and then fear. "I'm so afraid that you will cheat on me or leave me for someone else. I'm so afraid of being alone. I'm afraid that no one will love me." Do you see how she's beginning to go down through the layers? Then she gets to the remorse stage. "I feel such remorse that I put up with your foolishness. I feel so trapped. I wish I were strong enough to leave you." Then she states what she wants, which is the next part of an anger letter. "I want to be able to trust you and believe that you will do what you say you're going to do. I want us to discuss this tonight at 8 p.m. If we cannot come to a resolution on this, we need to think about a separation. Right now, neither one of us is happy." So when you write an anger letter, you go down through the anger, the hurt, the fear, the remorse. You state what you want, and then you get to the last stage, which is forgiveness and love. Whenever you're angry at someone, forgiveness and love is at the bottom, whether you're originally aware of it or not. And so the forgiveness and love goes like this. "Scott, there is a part of you that is very loving, kind, and giving. I feel very connected to that part of you. This is the part of you that I fell in love with and married. There is also a part of you that hurts me deeply. It makes me want to get away from you, but this is difficult because I love you. I forgive you for being so insensitive to my needs. A part of me knows you do love me. However, I will not allow you to continue to treat me in a way that causes me pain." Angela. So when a person goes through the process of writing an anger letter, and typically it is to a parent, we all have some anger towards our parents because our parents aren't perfect. And holding that anger, it prevents us from staying in a peaceful state. Our body has memories in our body. When we hold anger in our body or in our mind, it's like a block for you to have peace. And so getting rid of the anger is absolutely crucial. You cannot be angry and be carrying around anger and be peaceful at the same time. Now, am I saying that you should go around all day, every day in a state of complete bliss? No. But the reality is very, very few people feel any joy or any peace. There's constantly something agitating them. And having as much peace as you possibly can would be very, very, very helpful for you. What are some other feelings that you think might prevent a person from experiencing peace? Jealousy, absolutely. You cannot be jealous and peaceful at the same time. So how do you get out of that? What do you say to you? You use your mind, right? Your mind is the tool. You use your mind to get out of that because it's not helping you. We get to choose new thoughts. So you find yourself being jealous and you're caught up in that constant cycle of jealousy. What do? Do you just float out of it? How do you dig yourself out of it? You think of the next best positive thought. That's what you do. So if the thought is, she looks better than me, and he likes her because she looks better than me, you go to the next best positive thought, which is, she looks good and I look good too. There are times when I look good too. You start off very slowly, right? You can't jump from A to Z and say, I'm not jealous, I feel good, I am, that's lying to ourselves. That doesn't work. So you start off very slowly and get one step in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. And so the next thought would be, you know what? I remember someone telling me that I was a good person. And you think back of when someone told you that you were a good person, and you start to build up, pardon the pun, ammunition against jealousy. You start to build it up. You start to think of the positive thoughts. Now, what happens when you do that is the old negative thoughts try to overpower. And so you constantly, if you pay attention to your thoughts, you'll have all these negative thoughts. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Of course you're lying to yourself. And then the internal battle goes on. You hang on to the positive thoughts and you go to the next positive thought. Whatever it is for you. I don't like to go too far on that because I don't want to put words in your mouth. And you need to figure out what the next positive thought is for you. It's all about our thoughts. Staying in peace is all about our thoughts. We have emotions and we act upon our emotions. But the problem is our emotions are all over the place. They can be regulated by someone cutting in front of us. Our emotions can very easily be changed, and we don't want our life to be guided by our emotions totally. Emotions are good, they're good guideposts, they tell us what's going on in our life, but if we react to every single emotion we have, it was interesting when I was coming up here, there were a lot of storms in Philadelphia, and I thought, this is so ironic. I'm going to be talking about peace. And they rerouted us 3 or 4 times, and I was getting kind of tired, and I'd been traveling a long while, and the flight was rocky. And then they got us on one plane in Philadelphia, and they said, oh, it's storming in Halifax. This plane won't make it. It's not big enough to make it. So we all had to get off the plane and go get all new boarding passes. And by this time, I'm getting hungry and tired. And we don't know if we'll get to Halifax tonight. And there's a backlog of rebooking, so you may not get there tomorrow. And my mind started going, well, I better get there tomorrow. I'm supposed to speak at the graduation tomorrow. And so I found myself falling into that trap of negative thoughts. So I said, okay, I'm talking on peace when I go up there. So I need to practice what I preach. So the guy next to me on the plane, he thought I was a little crazy. And so that kind of like grounded me, got me back, centered again. I'm not in charge. Whatever happens, happens. I'm going to enjoy the journey. Maybe I'll talk to some people in the airport. Maybe I'll go get something good to eat. Make the best of it, whatever it is. So you will get pulled, you will get tested. You definitely will get tested and getting pulled out of your peace. So I want to ask you again, when's the last time you felt peaceful? And knowing that you are in charge and only you are in charge of whether you feel peaceful. And the reason that you should feel peaceful as much as you can, not only is for your health, but it's honoring who you really are. It's honoring who you really are. And when you get to the point where you can be peaceful, no matter what, and trust me, I'm not the expert on this. I'm still on my own journey too. When you get to that point, imagine what your life is going to be like. And just imagine what it is going to be like when you get to that point where you can be peaceful no matter what. One more thing that just came to my mind, something else that disrupts our peace is eating a lot of foods with sugar in it. Because it creates ups and downs in our emotional system. And it also creates inflammation in our body. But it creates an imbalance in our body when we eat unnatural sugar. And of course there's sugar in fruits and all that sort of thing. But when we eat sugar, and I love sugar, I just love ice cream. But when we eat sugar, whether we know it or not, it is disrupting our peace. Because our brain doesn't even function in a peaceful state when our body is full of sugar. And meditation is absolutely huge. And so many people have gotten off of pharmaceuticals and anti-anxiety and antidepressants and by using meditation. Meditation, actually, there's many different kinds of meditation. One is silent meditation, where you just be in silence and you observe your thoughts. And you realize what they are. They're just thoughts. And you observe them. So you distance yourself and you pay attention to your breath and you observe your thoughts. And you train your body not to react to your thoughts. Because if I reacted to every thought that I had, I don't know what would happen. Because I have a lot of negative thoughts. When you grow up in chaos and stress, you develop a lot of negative thoughts. Some you're aware of and some you're not aware of. And if you react to them, you have to remember that your negative thoughts are not true. They're not true. The only thing that is divine is positive and good stuff, and negative thoughts, it's not for your highest good at all. Any other? Yes?
Caffeine and cortisol.
Caffeine and cortisol? Caffeine, if you drink a lot of caffeine, it affects the adrenals. Adrenals, when the adrenals get fatigued, the adrenals are what sift out the toxins in our body. we cannot have a lot of toxins in our body because it will cause inflammation throughout our body. And when we have a lot of inflammation in our body, it causes our organs to start to fail over time. And so caffeine causes the adrenals to pump, work overtime. And when the adrenals are pumping overtime, it pumps out cortisol through the body. Cortisol is when, I'll explain to you what cortisol is. Cortisol is what happened to me last week when I was riding my bicycle. And those of you that know me on Facebook probably read this on Facebook because I was just mortified. I was riding my bicycle out in the desert, and I'm terrified of snakes. And it was out behind houses, but it wasn't way out in the desert. But anyway, I was riding along, and I was in my own peaceful state, and I see this rattler in front of me, and it's right in front of me. And so I automatically, cortisol shot through, adrenaline. It's a form of adrenaline. Shot through my body. I slammed on my bike brakes, went over the handlebars, skimmed up my arms and my knees, and landed face to face with the rattlesnake. Now, when you hit close to a rattlesnake, it goes shoo, and it goes up, and its mouth comes up. And I'm getting chills now just reliving it in my mind. And so I was just almost frozen with cortisol running through my body. And what happens is your whole body is out of balance in terms of hormones and neurotransmitters. And so I got up very slowly and backed away and got on the bike. Well, actually, I didn't get on the bike for a long while until that thing went. I will never go out there again, never. But anyway, you get that shot. And the reason I told you that story was I want you to imagine yourself in that position. You know what would happen to your body. That's what cortisol is. Now, here's the trick. If we were raised in a family where there was a lot of stress and chaos and we had to be like watching around Dad, we didn't know what Dad was going to do next, or there was a lot of arguing or whatever, then we have a constant low-grade flow of cortisol going through our bodies, and it's normal for us. And it drains our adrenals. It fatigues our adrenals so that we can't fight off diseases. We can't fight off. Our immune system gets depleted. But the cortisol, it causes anxiety, for starters. You will have anxiety. But it's not the cortisol when we get the shots of it like I got on the bike, because you would expect that. And that's actually good because it gives you lots of energy. And if you have to run from a bear, you can run. But it's when you have that low-grade constant anxiety with your unconscious thoughts going over and over and over again. And the cortisol is shooting out over and on and on and on. And it's fatiguing your it's fatiguing your organs. And it causes premature aging. Of course, it causes anxiety. It causes depression. It causes sleeplessness. It causes all kinds of diseases. And it's all about not learning to be in a peaceful state. Did I answer your question?
Is there room for any caffeine in your diet?
I have some caffeine. It depends upon your system. I mix mine half decaf and half regular in the morning, and I have 1 cup. I would say definitely no more than 2 cups a day. 1 cup really is tops. People that have cut out caffeine altogether have found higher states of peacefulness more often. Absolutely. If there's any way that you can do it, it's a challenging withdrawal, very much so. Yeah, and it's in tea too. Green tea is so good for you, but it does have caffeine.